welcome everybody. This is 3D Junkie here. I've not made a video in a while, but I've been getting some requests on UV mapping. What is it? How do you do it? How do you do it for games? It can be pretty daunting to learn, but I'm going to go over the strategies, the theological thinking behind it, and then obviously the application use. So let's get started here. First of all, what is a UV map? Chocolate rain, huh? Oops. I want a chocolate bunny. Trust me. Okay. Wrap chocolate bunny, let's try that. What the? Chocolate bunny. Anyway, a UV map is a 2D representation of your 3D object in 2D space. Whoa. Now why is this needed? This is needed because you have to be able to paint your textures. Right? You can't just paint on the model. You have to have something to paint on, and that's what a UV map is. And now I'm trying to find a good way to understand it. So wrap chocolate bunny candy. Here we go. It's exactly what I want. Okay, so I want you to think of this bunny right here as your 3D model. Right now, if you were to take off the wrapping, you would get your chocolate. Your chocolate is your model, okay? But the foil is your UVs. If you really want to understand this, just next time you're eating one at Easter, or, go buy one. Unwrap it without ripping it. When you flatten it out, it's going to be a 2D representation of your model. So just think about that. Think about, that's how I really understood it. Now I can type in like UV of a head. Now you can see this is flat. Right? It's the 2D representation of the of your, what the heck? Anyway, sorry about that. But this one right here. Jeez. So this one, will this bring it up? Probably not. Oh, there it is. 2D representation of your object. So you can think about that with the chocolate bunny, right? So that's what a UV is. And like I said before, you need that to texture. Like, there is a thing called P-Text, but that's not for a while. That's a new technology that has not been very polished yet. Now I'm going to be UVing in Maya. Okay? But using the same tools, you should be able to do it in any 3D program. So let's start with the basics. I'm going to go through the basics really quick, and then I'm going to unwrap a harder model. So we got this. In Maya, when you actually create a primitive, it comes with its own UVs. Now you can't use them after you extrude and everything, but the basic one, here's the UV editor. You can see here's the UV. If I snap this over here, I can go ahead and click a face, and I can see this is this face right down here. Okay? So, there's that. That is a very basic set of the UVs. Now you might ask, how do I even get that? How do I get these basic UVs? Well, this is just there's a few different ways to UV, and the easiest one is an automatic projection. Does everything for you. So I just did that, and here it is. Here's an automatic projection of it. Okay. Now I'm actually going to leave this up here, and I'm going to go through a few other ways to do it. You can hit automatic project, which you don't really have any control over. You can do a spherical map, which applies. Let's click it and see what happens. Clicked it. Do the editor. Spherical map just applies, if an object is more of a more spherical, you can click spherical map. That's what it's for. Same for cylindrical and planar. But with what I've ran into, most of the time, you can always use a planar map, because everything always has one, you know, in the axis, you know, there's always a face for it. So, I'm going to go ahead and bring in a model here, and actually do a logical, you know, how I would unwrap this. What do I want to do here? 3D. Yeah, I'm just gonna redo one of my props. My dresser, I guess. Cakes. Let's just take this low poly. So it's a dresser here. Now I'm assuming you already know how to model and all that stuff, so this is just a basic dresser. You know, with no sculpts or anything in it. Well, no normal map rather. But let's start with this. How would I unwrap this? Well, I know it has to be in 2D, and I'm going to bring it into Photoshop. So that being said, what's the easiest way to do that? Things need to be flat, right? You don't want, you know, the UV map to be all wonky, or it's going to be harder to match up in Photoshop. A straight line isn't going to be a straight line unless the UVs are straight, right? So, I'm going to, I think the UVs are already done here. Yeah, they are. And I'm going to just redo this. I'm just going to kill my UVs. Well, I'm just going to hit an automatic map. And let's see what happens. Now, in this case, it's actually not that bad. But before we get into how I would use this, I'm going to explain the tools. In Maya, you hold down the right mouse button, and you hit UV, and then you can select your UVs. Now, if you want to, if I were to, I can drag over this, and then hit W to move it. I can hit E to rotate, and R to scale. Now, an easy way to do it is just to click a couple UVs, hit Control, hold down Control, right click to shell. That's going to collect all of the UVs that are sewn together. Speaking of being sewn together, I'm going to show you how to do that. First, I'm going to how would I do this? Okay. So right here you can see this corresponds. And you might ask yourself, well, how can I tell what the UV is doing? 3D Junkie, you're like, what? It's a gray Lambert. Well, you assign a new material, and you can either put a procedural checker on it, or you can go on the internet and get a checker pattern, which this works fine. Hit 6. I can see these UVs. Well, you can see what the texture would be like. And you do you do checkers for clarity, because, you know, a square needs to be a square. Now, if these were all wonky, let me scale this up. Now, if the thing, you know, let's just take this. You can see how these get all distorted. You're looking for no distortion. You know, and how big the squares are is how much resolution it's going to get. So that's how, you know, if you're doing a gun, you know the trigger doesn't need as much resolution as the barrel. You know, the barrel's bigger, you know, the trigger's very small, the player's not going to see it. So you can actually scale the trigger down in the UV window. You know, not too much, but a little bit. I know there's a lot of information here, and if you have any questions, just let me know. You know, comment, you know, all that good stuff. But without further ado, so how do you do things in the UV editor? I already told you how to move it, select it, all that fun stuff. Another fundamental tool is unwrapping it. Like, oh, computer's going weird. I'm just going to take these faces. I'm taking any face. Well, actually, here, I'm going to show you how I do it. I basically want these faces right here, right? I want them to be flat. So I'm going to go create UVs, there's a planar mapping, cylindrical, spherical, automatic, or crate. I always use the crate UVs based off camera. So you click that, and you see that. Now, in here, they're a bit stretched. So you go back to the UV editor, and now it looks horrible. This button up here turns off the checker pattern. Now this is the entire model UVs projected in that one axis. So now, what you do is you make your seams. Where do you want your seams? I'm clicking on this edge, this one down here, this one, that goes down there like that. I don't really need any of these. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to hit cut. And you can turn on this to see where the seams are. Now when I select a UV, go to to shell, I can pick it up and move it away. So you can see right here, something's looking weird. The UVs are overlapping a bit. That's because of this. So how you would get rid of that is you would select it, and you need to do what is called an unfold. You can either unfold it, like that, by clicking this. You can right click, and if you want to hold a vertical or horizontal constraint. I'd want a horizontal constraint. Hit apply. See, and that really didn't do what I wanted. So I'm going to go to a manual one up here and hit unfold. I can see it's getting a little weird because there's all these, there's all these different faces and stuff. So I'm just thinking how I would do this. The biggest thing that I was not told when I was learning how to UV is it's okay to move the UVs. It's okay to do some manual work, right? So I'm going to cut these, bring this out. Now what I mean by manual work. Okay, like I said earlier about the straight line, you want your UVs to be straight, especially if you're going to be doing hand painting. For photo, it's still, for photo materials, it's still very important. An easy way to make things straight, you select the UVs, you hit over here. Align selected UVs to a minimum UV value. Bam, it's snapping them. It's very minute, but if you go in a bit here, I'm going to go down. See how I'm snapping all these? Just like that. Now this is just the inside dresser. So now, you can put a nice wood texture on that. This piece right here. Righto. I'm also going to cut around here. You just have to visualize it as how you want it in 2D and how you're going to texture. When you're UVing, you have to be planning how you're going to be texturing it. Or it's just you're going to have to come back and redo it, and it's going to be a pain in the butt. See, like, perfect example. If I wanted a straight line to do this, like right now, my Photoshop, if I were to, I would have to manipulate the wood in Photoshop to follow this UV. It's much easier to do in the UV editor, and I was never told I could do this. Bam. Let's take all of these and then snap it over here. Oh, missed two. Go like that. Bam. See, I'm doing the same thing. Now also to keep in mind, the way, I'm just going through UV mapping, but if you're going to be planning on doing high poly baking, your UVs are very, very important. If I'm not going to go in Max, because in Max there's smoothing groups and everything, but in Maya, I just smooth the complete model, and like before I start UVing, I smooth the model, and anywhere there's a 90-degree cut, like a 90 degree, edge, you have to have a UV seam there in order for the high poly bake to actually interpolate it correctly. So I would type, I'd go to this edge, harden this, harden it over here, harden over here. And sometimes the UVs get all screwed up. Not the UVs, but the model. Like right now I can tell my UVs are locked, so I'm just going to unlock them. You can go up to normals and unlock. So now I can smooth it again, and now redo it. And harden where the 90 degrees are. Harden edge. You gotta think how, because when you soften it, it tries to make a smoothing group to make everything smooth. And this is a hard, it's made out of wood where there's a 90-degree angle. You obviously don't want it to try to appear smooth. It needs to be hard. It's to have a hard edge. So that is the basic of UVs. I hit a lot of stuff, and I'm going to show you a finished. I'm going to show you this UV finished, the dresser, and I'm going to show you my texture and everything. And it's actually all done. So let's just go. I think it's in here. Yep. It's all triangulated and stuff. Let's go ahead, put a Lambert on it. Now you can see how it's all nice and crisp, because I put up my smoothing groups. But say on something like this, it's okay. There's no hard edges, so you just soften it and leave it. So let's go ahead and take just this piece right here. Check out my UVs. Now, this piece up here is my top. Let me put a checker on so you can see it. Checker. Boom. Explosion, Michael Bay. Okay, so here you can see this is just a planar map, right? It's, just planar map. Over here is this piece, which is obviously a planar map. I can turn on my UV seam so you can see where everything's cut. That will be easier to see in the Lambert. So you can see I have a seam going around anywhere where there's a 90-degree angle. And I created a seam by just selecting that geometry. When it's not anywhere, like right here, there isn't a seam. It's right here. But you just select that, you hit cut, and I can see that. Just the biggest thing about UVing is understanding it's a 2D representation of your object. Like I said with the chocolate bunny. You can create your UVs by automatic mapping it to the camera. And other various methods. This is just the basics. You basically, this is the way I see it. When you're looking at a model, you do an axis, and I do create UVs based on camera, and then I look at the bigger picture. Well, it needs to cut here, and then you just create your seams, move it out, unwrap it, and you can unwrap it by this button up here. Doing it manually, it's smoothing it. It's smoothing UV tool, and then unfold. You always, and I said this before, you have to think how you're going to texture it. Right? It's very, very important. Like, here's a cylinder. How would I do the cylinder? Well, I would take these faces. Well, first off, I would select the faces I want. They're right here. You can see they're already made in the UV editor. I'm just going to do this for demonstration. And then just hit automatic. Boom. This is very nice and easy to paint on. So is this. Just like that. But let's do something real quick. Oops. Let's extrude. Like that. So, this is how I would do it. I would take it like this. I'm going to create UVs, create based on camera. I would want my seam to run around, you know, pick an edge. There has to be a seam somewhere. And then you would hit cut. I would take all of these UVs. Well, first off, I'd want it cut here too, and here too, and then cut it. So now when I move it, the top and bottom will not go with me. Now, you cannot paint on this, there'd be overlapping and everything. So here's a really way to do this. You just select it, you go up here, you gotta right click it. Dang it. You right click it and you want to constrain it in a horizontal axis and just hit apply. And then you go up here, you smooth it. There you go. Now here is where originally I would say, okay, this is done. But now after texturing for a while, I know it's going to be that's going to be hard to texture. So now you would just go through here, select the UVs, and then, you know, snap it. Snap them all down, and you would go over to the left, do all this stuff. Now, this is creating a little bit of distortion, but it's okay to have a little bit of distortion. You know, you gotta weigh you gotta weigh it. Do I want to distort a little bit and have it, you know, be a better texture? You know, have it be easier to paint on, save more space, because me condensing this is going to be able to have more space in the packing. And in the packing, I mean, you know, they all your UVs have to end up in a 0 to 1 space right here. So here's this. And then I would take all of the faces, deselect the UVs that are done, and then just hit an automatic map. That's really simple. You want them to be the same size. So now since this is going to be the same object, you want to make sure everything's, you know, the same pixel density is the same. So you want to make sure these squares are around the same size, around everywhere. And then you would take it all, scale it in, put this over here, put this over here, put this up here. Okay, and so far we've just went over basic UVs. Now, how do I texture something? How do I even get these, you know, what's the next step? How do I do this? Well, very rudimentary way. Start with a cube. I'm just going to do a quick automatic. Go into the UV editor, which you can, like, I think there's one under Window, UV editor, well, UV texture editor. Create UVs, I think there's one under here, UV set editor. It's the same thing, and then there's a button under the polygon shelf. All of these over here, they're all there. That's my custom stuff. So here's this. So let's go ahead and select all these, go to UV snapshot. Wait for my computer, it's slow. I'm just gonna set it to the desktop and name it UV. 2K textures, targets, go into that, and then hit OK. Slowing down so much when I'm recording myself. Let's open up Photoshop. Now keep in mind, I'm going to do an old school way of texturing this. I'm going to rely on a lot of photos for this box. I'm just going to make a wooden crate really quick. And I'm relying on all of my details to be on the photos. That is very 2008. Okay? You don't do that anymore. Now, the pipeline is you make a model, you optimize it for a sculpting program like ZBrush or Mudbox. ZBrush is better, in my opinion. You go into ZBrush, you then sculpt it. You sculpt in everything, the bolts, the scratches, everything, the wood grain, everything. Then you would export that out as a high poly. Then you can either decimate then you'd want to decimate it and everything, and you can either take that mesh and retopo it with Topo Gun or just remake it, or what I like to do is you just take the same mesh you bring into ZBrush and you make it low poly. You know, you take some extra geometry out, like you saw the dresser we were working with. That was my optimized mesh. Okay. And then you would both bring them in. You would set up a cage. You would bake everything, and then right here you would then you would UV the low poly, and you would do everything we just did. You would bring in the UVs, and then you would have all of these maps. Okay. Let me go to my 3D. See, I have like a ZBrush folder, a texture folder, a renders. Here is an axe I did. Okay. You can see here's the layout of it and everything. Now I can go into texture. Like I said, you have all these maps, right? No. Like here's an AO map that's baked. Shows where light and darkness. Here's the normal map that carries my high poly sculpt. There's all of this indents, everything cracks, all that stuff. Bolts. Sculpted all that in. And then you just start merging stuff together. Not merging stuff, you just start building the texture up. You start with a flat color, and you start building it up. And then you gotta make your spec map, your roughness, your gloss, your metalness if it's metal. It's a big process now. But anyway, that is how stuff is done now. But it used to be, and some studios still do this, it really depends. But you go to an awesome texture website, CG Textures, and I can probably just type in crate, and I'm getting these awesome crates already. I'm gonna grab this one. How's that looking? Okay. So this is an older way to do it, but like I said, it still works. So you bring in, first off, you're like, how are these UVs going to help me? You want to obviously always name your layer. So let's name it UV. I'm going to hit Control-I to flip it, and then I'm going to set this to multiply. And then I'm going to lock it. I'm going to name this crate. What's the name of it? Crate wood. That was probably stupid because I need to flatten it. What's the name of it? Wood now. Dang it. WOD. Make a new layer. I'm just going to give me a nice background to work with. And now I can see what I got to do. This is basic Photoshop skills. I am not even skills, you know. Okay, let's go ahead and take that out. Take that. I can see there's some dirt here. So, how can I do this? I can see that it comes down to probably about here. And now I can just take the clown stamp. I'm going to hold down Alt and give it some wood. Many ways to do this. I'm just, just doing this quick. I know there's going to be some haters somewhere, but just doing this quick. I could go get another piece of wood and lay it down here, but for this tutorial, I'm not going to do that. Yeah, I'm actually going to do that really quick. I'm just going to grab this one. Just lay that over top. Okay, I'm gonna hide that UV really quick. Doing this, I'm gonna, bam, put those together. And then take this off. I'm just cutting it. I'm going to go ahead and should have a tablet out, but really quickly, I just want to give this texture something. What the heck is going on? Oh, derp. There we go. I'm just gonna go ahead and paint in some shadows, like over here, over here, over here. Looks great, doesn't it? And now I'm gonna take this and put it to multiply. Didn't do anything. Go to filter, blur. Give me some blur. I'm gonna blur the shit out of this. I'm gonna blur it. It go bloom. Alright, so now let's take it out where we don't want it. Like there. Over here. You don't want it over here, man. Ah. Drop down the opacity. I'm gonna do the same thing with a highlight layer. Yippee. I'm gonna make this a bit smaller. Dang it. Okay, gonna be much easier to click, hold shift, go like that, because I want the highlights to hit here. I want the highlights to hit here, 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 here. And then I'm gonna do the same thing. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Way too much. Blur. Gaussian blur, and I'm gonna drop this back. Okay, so now where do I not want it? Technically, did that wrong. I want the highlights up here. This is very, very basic. I'm gonna go into my eraser tool. Older way of doing things, like I see it. I'm just trying to give the texture some depth. Drop it back. Take the base layer, change the levels. Drop it down, go like that. I don't know, say I want this to be mossy. This is just photo bashing. This is how I learned how to do textures. Let's go ahead and take a small image. Show in folder. Pop this in. I'm gonna go ahead and go like this. And just give it an overlay more than likely. You know, something like that. Like this. Just merged it. If you were wondering what I was doing, I'm cutting that out with the mask. Dropping down the opacity. And now some subtle detail. It wouldn't be as mossy up here as it would in here or over here. It's gonna grow on the edges more. Just try to darken it up a bit. Like that. I should be saving. I'm just gonna hit Control S real quick. Name it UV. It should be. I should name it something like crate texture, right? Let's go like this. So we got this. This is the diffuse. I like to usually when I'm working in a big project, I'll name this like green for diffuse, and my this would be spec, so I usually have spec red. Spec maps is how the light bounces when it hits. So I'm actually going to go like this, make it black and white. I know wood doesn't really reflect well. So that being said, it's darker. But you know, say like this is not as worn, the brighter parts. The green, I'm going to leave green, but I'm definitely going to change the levels and make it darker because, well, moss actually reflects quite a bit. So I would have that a bit lighter. Bring that. I'm gonna go ahead and drop that. Very low. And drop it to overlay. So here's the spec. Very quick. You know, you guys really have to take your time. I'm just doing this for demonstration. But you know, it's looking alright. So now, take these, turn on the UV layer, and now I have to match this to the UV. Now you guys might be able to really be noticing. You know, how do I do this? What's a UV for? There it is. I'm gonna turn off the spec. Well, I gotta hit enter first. Go like that. Now I'm just gonna dupe it. Dupe. It's a funny word to say. And here, this is why you have to have the UVs. Good. Oh, dang it. Move that over. Okay. So we got this, and I'm going to take every spec layer. It's like Christmas. Merge it. Oh no. Take every diffuse layer. You know, I should have backups and all that stuff, but one last thing I'm going to do is I might be able to do a bevel and emboss. No, it's not what I wanted. So I'm gonna name this diffuse spec. Now I'm gonna go ahead and I'll go ahead and open up. You know, I don't have a normal map because I just yanked everything from textures, right? And this is half the reason why you want to sculpt everything, because you want to have a nice clean normal map. You know, you want to have all this wood grain. You know, I would probably add some nails when I'm sculpting it. Well, that probably is that a nail? I don't know. But you know, but I said I wanted to have this for. I'm gonna look at one thing really quick in Maya to look at my UV orientation. Like, say I want this. I'm wondering if they're all facing the same way. And they're not. So I'm not gonna add like a dirt or anything. Oh, not to mention, you also want to bake out, you know, like, you want to bake out a ramp, you know, a gradient texture. You want to bake out an object space normals, a tangent space normals, all that awesome stuff. You know, you do this all with XNormal right here. It's a nifty little program. I'll probably someday do a tutorial on that, but you know, there's a lot of stuff on the internet. It's a basic workflow now. I'm not going to worry about mip mapping. I probably will, just a little bit. I'm gonna make a mip map. Mip mapping is, as the farther you get away from the model, has to do with it reading textures and stuff. You just don't want this white background showing up. So I'm going to go like that. And then diffuse, copy these together, select this, make this the background. Like that. So now, Coolio, what's going on with this? Okay, that's fine. So now I'm going to take this. Well, I'm not going to take anything. I'm just going to save this one as a TGA, name it diffuse. And I'm not really messing with PBR. I will. Damn it. This shit was. The UVs were still turned on. But I'm not going to mess with PBR in this tutorial. You know, making an albedo map instead of a diffuse. If you guys want to know about PBR, let me know. Like, that axe was all PBR. I do everything in PBR now. Let's go ahead and make a black background. It's looking pretty bright for my liking. I just want to draw down the whites much better. So now I can save this as a spec. Now you need a normal map. Get a normal map from there's you know, if you're not baking your own, you obviously just have to rely on things such as Crazy Bump. Crazy Bump will make a bunch of textures for you, but so will Endo O2. I prefer it over Crazy Bump. You can actually do some really awesome stuff with this. I'm just gonna do a photonormal preset for right now. And Flatwood, it's pretty much like Flatwood, making an active dock. Now it's converting it into a normal map. Oh, so rough. Yuck. Turn these down. There we go. Much better. It's still really... I don't want like any fine details. Large bevels. No way. Large cracks. There we go. That's a bit better. But like I was saying earlier, you can do awesome stuff. Like, I can add a new sculpt layer, and actually in Photoshop, I'm painting like my own normal map, so that's another way around it. If you don't want to do a sculpt, you know, you can still make your own awesome stuff. Like if I had, I don't know. No, I'm just gonna do this the wrong way and just go like that. And this would be normal. Sweet. Let's open up Marmoset tool bag because it's quick and dirty. I need the mesh. You know, like I said, I'm relying on everything from a photo. You know, to do a nice crate, you would want to actually... You know, this might be my final mesh, but you want to create all the textures your own, and you do that by making the wood. And, you know, you sculpt the wood in, you sculpt the moss in, and then you bake everything down. This isn't cheating by any way, it's just a different way of doing things, you know. Sometimes you can't do it, you know, you can't afford, you know, this is a very rudimentary way of doing things. There's nothing wrong with that. But, you know, it's easier. It's, I don't want to say it takes less talent, but, you know, we're artists here. If you want to get into the 3D, you know, game field, you have to understand just because you like video games doesn't mean you're good at making video games. And this is art. This isn't, you know, oh, I like video games, so I'm gonna, you know, you still have to be an artist. And I see that a lot. You know, people are like, oh, I love video games, so I'm gonna go make this. You know, and maybe you like them so much you want to, but there's a big difference. I'm just plugging in my spec and my chroma map. Drag this on. Now you can see here the shadows are a little weird because I didn't make sure they were coming from the right areas. But like if we just look at this right here, it's not bad. Actually, I might go ahead and fix that really quick. I would need shadows on the bottom piece, and I did not do that. So let's go over here. See, that's why I should be working in layers and blah 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 blah. But get, come on, new layer. So all I gotta do is drop it over here. Drop it over here. Filter. Blur. Gaussian blur. There we go. Something very simple. Resave this as your diffuse. Blah blah blah. Replace it by yes, 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 yes. Boom. So that looks a little better, you know. Like once again, there should be a shadow. Dang it! I'm so annoyed by it. Should be a shadow here. I think I just blurred it too much. I'm cheating. Bam. Now I'm just gonna merge all these and blur it again. Drop the opacity. So I'm just gonna go filter, take the same blur out. I don't even think I need to drop it. There we go. Come on. Targa, diffuse. I know in my other videos, they were more like a stream, you know, me doing work, but I don't know what you guys prefer more. Of me just working and, you know, see, it's very flat, but you know, this would definitely not be an object you would want to look at. You know, it would be in the back of the room, but you know, it looks okay for the time we spent on it. Like I said, this is flat. You know, even for low poly mesh, you'd probably want to have more geometry. What's the word? More geometry. You know, like you'd want this to be extruded in and these pieces out. You just need more geometry here. Let's go and drop some AO, local reflections, these. Very quick and dirty. Presets. Right. Let's go ahead and sharpen this a bit. Make it go blue. Let's go ahead and take the sky. Blur it more. Drop it down a bit. I'm gonna go ahead and drag a light in. See, and because it's a cube, you're not really getting any nice shadows, or like there you are a little bit. You know, it's poking out a little, but it's really not anything crazy good. But, you know, that's about it, you know. Let's take an image. Sorry, my computer's going so slow. Here's the screenshot we just grabbed. Let's go into Photoshop. Take this. What I like to do, fake some awesomeness. You know, you just take these, make a new layer. Presentation. And if you guys want to take a look, no, obviously you know what it looks like. Derp-a-derp. Let's go ahead and save this. Desktop. JPEG. Box. Thin. You know, it's definitely not amazing by any means, but, you know, it works. It is doing the job. So, here's this. You know, if you guys have any questions about it, please, you know, I went really quick in UV mapping. If you want me to go back, and if you have any questions, just comment and let me know. Is there something you guys want to know? You know, do you want me to go over a PBR? Do you want me to do another crate? But, you know, actually go with the workflow I was talking about, you know, and use Substance, use Dedo. I use both to texture as well as Photoshop, you know, to make it really nice. I just don't know what you guys would, I don't know what you want to see. You know, so please just let me know. Let me turn this down. There we go. You know, just let me know what you want, guys. You know, this is about an hour long. My videos are usually always about an hour long. You know, what do you want? You want PBR? Do you want anything? Do you want me to stop making videos? You know, I wanna help you guys with the knowledge I know, because I know what it's like to want to learn how to do this stuff, and you have no idea where to start, and you don't want to go to Full Sail and spend $80,000. You know, if you guys want to see, I'll show you my newest work. I think it's actually just that axe, but I'm also working on some other stuff right now. Like this one, this gun was used using Photoshop only. There was no textures, there was no picture, there was no photos at all. That's all hand painted. Same with the other one, the axe, no photos. This one is very photo based. You know, before I was learning the new workflow, like that texture right there. It's a photo. I photoshopped it together. I made it tile. I did everything, but you know, it's still a photo, and I'm not doing that anymore. It's just not the way the industry's going. You know, especially with PBR now, physically based rendering. It's some pretty insane stuff. And now I am rambling on. But like, subscribe. You know, if you didn't like something I did, please, instead of, you know, just ripping me a new one, please just tell me what I did wrong. If I went too fast, I do apologize, but maybe you can, you know, I hope I can change that if I went too fast. I don't know. That's why I usually do a live stream, so when I explain something, it can be, well, what do you mean by that, you know? But just think about, you know, I said this was about UV mapping. It went into a little bit of texturing work, but UV mapping is definitely, you know, you want to project it from an you know, from an axis, and then just make your seams, you know, and move the UVs around, you know, put that checker on there, make sure it works, all that fun stuff. So this is 3D Junkie signing off. I hope you enjoyed. I've not made a video in a while. Haven't streamed in a while. Like I said, I'm working on a scene right now. I'll go ahead and show you my, well, let me think. I can probably just go to day one. Here's a dresser I made. That's that dresser in-game. This was just me learning CryEngine. I didn't make these assets. I didn't make these assets. I just placed them. I made the dresser though. I'm doing an entire scene. What, day 2? You can see like I have my door in, and then I did the door better, added some stuff. What I wanted to show you before I go is perhaps dresser. Misk maybe? Ooh. Where is this? Well, I'll just go, I'm gonna put this in the description if you guys want to follow me on Polycount. I am, Polycount. This is the room I'm going for. Up here, you can see the dresser and stuff. Here's the dresser in Marmoset tool bag. I was using Unreal Engine 4, but now I'm doing CryEngine. You know, there's me starting my wall, starting that. You know. So, now for real, this is 3D Junkie signing off. Thank you so much for watching. 59 minutes and 27 seconds, 28, 29, 30, and I am gone. You guys have a good day.